Hey, Michael.
Ronnie, how are you, sir?
Doing good, man. Excited for
Always a
episode
pleasure.
2.
Me too. Our fans are. We've been getting a lot of fan mail in. When's the next one gonna drop? So I'm glad we're here and can
Likewise.
calm the crowds.
So I think today the goal was to chat about some of the favorite tools that we're using, right?
Yes, and intend to use. Last time we
Yes.
kind of talked high level on what we want to get out of these chats and AI in general. So yeah, I thought good to hear from you on some things you're using or would like to use. My goal for the year is to have 12 AI tools by the end of the year. So one per month.
Okay.
I think I'm
Okay.
on track for two. Add
Good deal.
a few more arrows to the quiver and see how productive we are.
So would you say your goal is time saving, be more productive? What are you aiming for?
Yes, productivity and time management. So personally, I would like some tools to make me more efficient, and then yeah, just making the most of my time, kind of a AI accountability partner, if you will,
Oh, that's fair.
to just help me be better. How about
You
you?
know, it's fun. It's funny because I was thinking about that because I had a goal to use more tools, and I did start last year, to be fair. But it was, am I looking to work less or get more done in the time that I've already set aside for work? And I'm actually leaning towards the latter. I'm
Yeah,
kind of comfortable in the 8-ish hours a day. And so many times I find myself saying, man, if I just had 2 more hours, what more? So yeah, I think that's my goal is to, in that time already that I've set aside, how much more can I get done? And I think
yeah,
that's kind
that's
of influenced some of the tools that I've gone after.
I think that's a good goal, and I think 8 hours a day of work is enough, really. 40 a
Yes.
week.
Yes.
Maybe if you want to do 40 in 4 days, not bad
Yeah.
either. But
There you go.
uh, yeah, I mean that's definitely the goal for me. I mean, I just personally some days I'll get more done in 4 to 6 hours than I do in 10, and
Right.
I think a lot of
Right.
that comes to time management and kind of staying on task and organized. So yeah, that's kind of how I want to start, and then get a little more technical with the tools I'm using as I familiarize myself.
Sweet. Well, hey, do you want to go tool for tool? You want to start us off? Which
Yeah,
one of
I'll
the
kick it
favorite ones
off.
you're using or intending to use?
Well, this is revolutionary. You might have heard something about it, but there's this tool called ChatGPT.
Latest and
I've
greatest,
been
huh?
using, yeah. No, I have been playing around with it for a while, but in reflecting on, our talks and what I want to get out of AI, I realized that I've really been using it almost like you would use Google.
Okay. Fair enough.
Instead of going to google.com, I'll go to ChatGPT and ask the same question. And I know that that's barely scratching the surface on what it can do. What I do like about it is the conversational aspect where I can essentially do a search, but then ask, well, how would I do this? Or tell me more about this topic, and kind of dive deeper into it, and then be able to have some copy and paste functionality. I've played a little with some of the Dolly functionality and images, things like that, and luckily work with smart people who can help guide along the way. But which really shows that I'm just scratching the surface on it. But it's a great tool using the mobile version. Even I think I asked for some cooking tips and was blown
My
away by what it could do.
All right.
So
Well,
I think that's number one for me.
for my first one, since we're taking the easy ones first, I'm a sucker for Google services. So my go-to has been Gemini. I was already paying Google for some storage space. So when they rolled out the tiers, if you paid a few bucks more, then you got access to all of their advanced models. And it's been incredible. So for me, it's been more of a planning and brainstorming tool. So I think it's bad if you use these tools, if you're asking it to help you create something, and then you just copy and paste and use it. I think that's a garbage way to use these powers that we've been given. But for me, it's doing a prompt. Hey, I want to create this sequence. Hey, I'm looking at reaching out to this type of person. Even recently, I used it for a show that we're attending here soon, and I gave it a long list of companies and said, "Hey, give me a high level overview. Are any of these companies competing with us in the same space? If you think so, tell me why. And then the why, tell me if I have any advantages over them." And it was incredible what it comes up with. So for me, that's been my giant use of these types of solutions right now is brainstorming. Another me, a much older, smarter me that I can have a conversation with and help me with research.
Well, and that kind of goes back to doing more with 8 hours in a day, right? You would have
Exactly.
spent
Exactly.
maybe a full day or 2 days doing that same research on your own
I
just to
know.
take notes. And now you can start from that point and actually use your mind to be creative with it.
I can do the human
That,
stuff.
yeah, that's right. That's what it's all about, right?
All right, what's your number two?
Number two is one that I've only been on the other side of, and I realized actually just today on a call that I was on that I need to start using more and implementing when I'm doing Teams calls, video calls, Zoom, whatever it might be, is Firefly
Okay.
because I
Okay.
I take notes on paper just out of habit, helps me kind of stay on track, keep on task. But then I don't really do anything with those notes other than try to find them 3 weeks later, going back pages of notes where I should be putting those into a digital medium so that I have them. But what I love about Firefly is it gives you meeting notes, gives you action items to do, recap where you could copy and paste that into a CRM or however you like to store your notes, and it's already there. So that call today, I had 3 reminders. I had only written two of them down, and it reminded me that I needed that third to do.
You
So
missed
I'm
one.
going to start implementing that. Yeah, for sure. And it gives a template, so I can take that into a CRM or wherever I want to keep my notes and add to it. So I love that. It's a great framework, and definitely going to start implementing that some more.
Nice. Yeah, I do love Fireflies. I know there's another one out there too that is just as popular that a lot of people swear by. One of the ones where you wear the pin, records everything you're saying, then gives you a recap of your day. Some pretty slick stuff. Pretty slick stuff.
Yeah, I've seen that actually in person meetings. Someone using that, which I
Is that
thought was
right?
pretty cool.
Oh my word.
And it's
Well,
funny
my
because I mean, kind of the robots taking over and all that, the paranoia that comes with it. I remember the first time I saw that in a in-person meeting. I'm like, oh, we're being recorded. But then I'm so used to being on Teams calls or Zoom calls, people record those all the time. It's really
all the
no
time.
different, and it's giving you the same functionality.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more part of our normal. I don't know if you remember, probably dating myself here, but 15 years ago-ish, in the round when the first Google Glass came
Uh-huh.
out, and that was everybody's fear right away. They're like, oh my goodness, they can record everything they see, nothing's safe. It's bad enough we have all these security cameras around. Now people's eyeglasses are recording, but it never really got to that point where it was uncomfortable, we'll say. I think it just
Yeah,
became a normal. It's like, okay, we take pictures of too much crap anyway, so maybe this isn't the end of the world. So
yeah. Going one more. Palm Pilot. I remember it was probably
yeah, I
early
was
thousands.
I was
People
selling those.
would, yeah,
I did,
revolutionary.
embarrassingly so.
Yeah.
All right, so my number two is a powerful tool, marketing tool, and it has some AI features built in. And I think there's a lot of these out now, called SendSpark. So SendSpark is slick because it can use AI to give you some ideas on things, but the coolest feature is that it copies or trains and then copies your voice, and can place that into videos en masse. And for me, that's That's
Wow.
insanity. So to be able to do one recording, it knows your voice. You say a trigger word, and it fills in that trigger word with um, different company names or different people's names, and shows a website behind you, to send out a personalized video. And you can still own the fact, of course, that you didn't record 300 of these, but it's a very nice way, like I told you, the tools I was focusing on this year to multiply yourself.
Yeah. So that gives some personalization without the recording 300
Right,
videos.
right.
That is pretty cool. I mean, I know just from a kind of email perspective, or if you're leaving a message for someone, saying their name will kind of trigger, oh, they're talking to me. And that goes such a long way. So sending a mass email out that's the same to everyone versus kind of having it semi-tailored to them is a great idea. That's SendSpark.
Spark. And I think there are some tools out there that might take that too far. I had a colleague recently tell me about one that was the equivalent of a stalker.
Okay.
You could have it pull every single piece of information digitally that a person has available, so you can brush up on the person before a meeting. And I'm not saying that's bad per se. I like to do a little digging myself, but I think as we kind of comb through this new landscape, is we're all going to be finding what's that line, and we probably some of us will have different lines, but just trying to figure out, all right, up to this point's okay, that way too far. And for me, the too far was using a different tool that I played with, where it made an avatar of me, and then I could just let it say whatever it wanted, and then send those in an email. And I was like, all right, that's my limit. That's a little too much, so I couldn't,
Yeah.
I couldn't
So
bring
at
myself to
that
do
point,
that one.
it's actually representing you as like,
Right.
I don't
And
want
I'm
to be
like, all right,
liable for what this thing does.
right. Yeah. They're like, you didn't sound like that in the video that you emailed me. You sound much different. I was like, as a matter of fact.
That's
All
yeah, I
right.
mean, so that's where we kind of get into the creepy realm, right? I mean,
Right.
uh
Right.
automated, I mean, we all get voicemails that are pre-recorded and for, whatever telemarketing service, and I just delete it. And that's how it's going to go with AI. Once everything's automated, then really you're not doing any good. You're not more productive because people don't want to be mass marketed to.
No, not to that. And it's funny because I remember 2 or 3 years ago where this came up with the strikes in Hollywood, where everybody was, a lot of these guys were like, you can't just use my digital representation of me. And of all of the people, stars that were kind of complaining about that, Keanu Reeves came out and said, 100%, you can make a digital version of me, and as long as I'm compensated for it, you could use it to perpetuity. And I did like that stance. That was interesting. It's like he's never going to look the way he did 30 years ago. But to see a 30 years younger version of yourself on screen, as long as you're being compensated, why not? And it's funny
Yeah.
where, again, everybody's drawing that line somewhere else. I think even the voice for Darth Vader, ever since the original voice actor died, James Earl Jones,
James
right?
Earl Jones,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So his kids, they sold the voice to Disney. So they were okay with it as long as they were compensated. So,
You know what? So my daughter's very into Star Wars, and we've been after watching the first three multiple times, finally started watching some new stuff on Disney Plus, and I think it was maybe the Obi-Wan Kenobi one. At the end, the credits had James Earl Jones
yeah.
as a credit, and that explains why. So they're using his likeness, but giving credit
Using-
where credit's due. Very
All right,
cool.
what's your number three?
The third for me is TypingMind, which is brand new to me and I can't even speak intelligently about, but recommended by my friend Adam, was telling me a bit about it. And I think as we add more tools that we're using on a day-to-day basis, this will essentially tie them together. So you could tie it into ChatGPT, Gemini, any of these others, maybe Firefly, I'm not sure, But as you start using more and more tools, almost kind of a hub to tie all of
Oh,
that
okay.
into, as opposed to being logged into each separate one and maybe just looking at your typical browser tabs. Mine span the whole screen, and I can't even read
Yes.
them because
Too
so I
many.
don't want that happening with my AI app. So I think kind of having a central hub to tie all those into would be great. So I'm going to investigate that one a bit more.
I keep getting advertisements for you.com that does that, where it lets you pay one subscription, but it gives you access to all of the all of the other big ones that are out.
Really?
And I kept kicking it around, but same thing there. I'm trying not to get to that moment that we're currently at with television, right? Where you have a
Mm,
Netflix, you have a Disney Plus, a Paramount Plus, a Peacock, a Hulu, etc. And it's like, man, how many? I don't want to pay for 30 of these. So I'm thinking about that
yeah.
myself.
Okay. That's well. Let me know.
Yeah.
Learn from your experience. Ride your coattails if I can.
My number three is an oldie but goodie, and you could probably argue that it wasn't super AI, but if you do some research, it actually is AI. Was Grammarly. So they've been around for a
Okay.
bit. I
Yeah.
remember signing up for that at least 4 years ago, maybe more, and I've been paying yearly ever since. And it started out very much like our good old friend Clippy from Microsoft Office. Still dating myself. Basic grammar, spell correction, and one of the features that had always kind of struck me with that, especially working in SaaS for a few years, and you're writing so much, was, hey, just revise this, right? Give me a different way of saying the same thing. So that it was very, very useful for emails, especially if you're doing that cross language, which I've worked at a few companies where that ends up being the case. But I'd say in the last year and a half, 2 years, it's gotten much better to the point where, similar to Apple Intelligence, I think Apple ended up doing something similar where you can write something out, you can highlight the whole thing and say, hey, make this more whatever. So more concise, more friendly, more straightforward. I asked it one time to revise this like you're a lawyer, and it did as much.
Okay.
So yeah, some very, very cool features and a small one, but I think again, if you're in that and you're typing every day like I am, and you're communicating with people in that way, it's really nice to sound professional. And if you're in the mood of typing professional and you realize that ahead of time, and one click to say, okay, this one can be a little bit more personable, you know, you're not a lawyer in this moment. So big fan,
Well,
big fan.
yeah, I like that, and I would have never thought of Grammarly as a AI tool, but to keep up, any
It
kind of
is.
software
Yeah.
company has to implement AI, and yeah, I mean, I guess thinking back, it is what I've been guilty of, and generally just don't use is going to a chat GPT and say, write me an email about this. At that point, it's coming up with ideas, and some might be good, some might not. But using Grammarly as a supplement, you are using your ideas and you're editing a little bit, cleaning it up, and giving the giving the feel that you want. I'm gonna look into that myself.
Actually, I did a campaign just for, again, in my 9 to 5, I respond to leads like many of you that are listening might be doing. And if we're honest about the type of leads that we get, I'd say, I don't know, 2/3 of them are probably garbage, and the other third are
Yeah.
worth actually speaking to. So I have my initial, I call them right away to leave a phone number, shoot them a text even, and I shoot them an email, right? And usually the decent ones, they're going to respond to one of those. And then I give it a day and I do something similar again and kind of trail off. I wanted a cadence created that was kind of snarky, right?
Okay.
To kind of keep people in the mood, like, hey, you gave me your info. This isn't cold. Let's have a conversation. So I asked Gemini that. I said, hey, I need a 7-step cadence. I want it to be snarky. This is the company I work for. And I want you to remind them that the company I work for is not like your typical SaaS company. I'm not trying to sell you a used car or have a 2 hour demo. I just want to learn what cool project did you think our product could help you solve, right? And it did that. And then I got the seven. I wasn't crazy about all of them, so I had a conversation with it. And I said, hey, look, number three doesn't apply. That's way off base. I need you to tighten this up, add this. If it used an illustration I didn't like, I just say, hey, change that, not a fan. And then from there, I copied that into the CRM that we use, made some adjustments to make it sound more like Ronnie, and it was a task that easily I could have spent an uncomfortable amount of time on that
Yeah,
probably shrank to half hour or less, which was awesome.
that's awesome. I mean, because that, yeah, again, to the time saving, getting more done with the time that you have. I mean, I can think back to sending emails where I'd have saved email signatures and maybe dozens of them, but you have to click, pick which one you're going to
Oh
do,
my
fill in
goodness.
some
Right.
fields, and uh, yeah, just having that in a cadence like that that's kind of pre-populated makes so much sense. And especially for an intro email, if you haven't met the
Right.
person yet, you
Yeah.
know what you want to convey, and that's perfect.
And then I'll let marketing pick it up from there. I know they have their own super fancy ones that they've come up with, but for the things
Yeah,
that come straight to me, I figured that's a nice way to kind of keep them engaged because it doesn't have to be so serious. You gave me your info, so you signed up for
yeah,
it.
I like that. And yeah, nobody wants to have everything super formal. I mean, we're people, even if we're using AI. You want that personal touch. You want them to know that they're dealing with a guy who might be just like them.
Right.
That's the way to do it. I like it.
All right. Well, those were my three.
Yeah, I think I'm going to look into Grammarly, clean up my vocabulary a bit. So
It does
I
that too.
appreciate the tip there. And then
It's like that word isn't big enough for you.
do better, do better.
Do
And
better.
yeah, I'll play around with TypingMind and hopefully have some more to share with you from there. All positive stuff.
Sounds good, man. Well, hey, thanks. Thanks again. This was good.
Thank you,
I think
Ronnie.
next
Yeah,
week
talk to you
you
next time.
security next week, right?
Security. Yeah, let's get
Security.
secure. I like it.
Let's dive in.
All
All
right.
righty. Till
Thanks.
then.
Take care. Bye.